I like the ones that have one and then go crazy in a different genre, like Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
He's got that real spacey one from I just walked in to see what condition my condition is in. and like, that's just like fucking acid trip. You painted up your lips and curled and rolled your tinted hair. like, what the hell? Is that what, the same guy? Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you, trivia.
Yeah, but you know what Kenny did? He didn't give a shit. Like I guess at a certain point I figured where a fella's like, let's give it a fuck. Like I think even Garth Brooks went through. Well, he did that. He created that other character that was for a movie where it's a bit kind of emo. Do you remember that bit?
No, I follow like Garth Brooks' career to a degree, but I didn't know that he like had a departure like Kenny did.
Yeah. He tried to he was said it was for a role, but he released a couple of songs. And he was all like your hair brushed over his eyes, and he's sitting in the corner of the room like, "Don't look at me, I'm so shy." Not country at all, like
when his wife left him.
Yeah.
Like a reaction from when the wife left. Yeah. Oh, it's I was the king of Whitehorse in the Yukon just for blame it all on my roots. Up in boots and learn that tie fair. The place is just like on their fucking feet, Tom. I ran out of jokes in about hour 3. And I was just like, I fucking don't know what to do. I just looked around and thought I'm either going to die or pull out a fucking country tune. And luckily Garth had a couple of hits at the, we're two of a kind, working on a full house. I just fucking bumped the place after that. They didn't know what to do. Fuck, we thought he was funny. Now we want our daughters to fuck him. And I'll tell you, I don't want to blow all my fucking dough on you before you're rolling tape, but it's the only gig that I can remember, and the first gig where there were like fucking skidoos in front of the bar, like 40 fucking skidoos, like motorbikes on a hot summer day. Fucking bananas. Never in my life seen that. Like just everyone getting around on the fucking sleds.
I love the notion that there's biker gangs, skidoo fucking biker gangs.
Gangs, yeah, totally, like fucking single men in the fucking Arctic, just beautiful.
Sounds like I'm from Tipperary originally, and it sounds similar with less snow.
Right, I'll bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think rural Ireland has a lot of applications that would fit right in Canada, really.
Yeah. Craig Campbell, the Canadian comedian, not to be mistaken with the American country music star.
Yes, who I get along with famously online. That is, he quite often sends my like 3 hits a year traffic back at me. He's like, "No, I'm not that guy. You want the guy that probably told your mom to fuck off at midnight 8 years ago. I'm the nice guy that sings country music and is quite famous." So,
I don't know. I think I have a funny feeling you could probably make a decent country music star if you really wanted.
There's a bit of me that feels that way. Yeah, for sure, Tom. That's pretty much. That would have been how I started. Really, I was singing country tunes, like in a rudimentary band before I was doing comedy. To be fair, that's. Let me see if. Oh God, what were the big ones at the time? Oh God, it's. I just about went into Two of a Kind, as we spoke before the conversation. Working on a full house, because it's almost the same beginning. Well, life on the farm is kind of laid back. Ain't much an old country boy like me can't hack. Early to rise, early to the sack. I thank God I'm a country boy. Well, the simple kind of life never did me no harm. Raising me a family and working on the farm. My days are all filled with an easy country charm. I thank God I'm a country boy.
Way!
The old fiddle when the sun coming up, I got cakes on the griddle. Life ain't nothing but a funny riddle. Woo! Tomo! I'm a country boy. Yeah, then I get in my homemade Cessna and fiddle with the fuel tank for a while, and then pile it into Monterey Bay. That's how another great man. I don't mean to make fun of his death, but when you buy homemade kit planes, there's an adoption of risk that's going on there. That I don't know if you know the backstory of that. If you want to get into
was it a glider or was it a? Why did I think it was a glider?
It was it was a kit plane, a model plane, and the previous owner, in somewhat a true aviation homage, say, he was being as efficient as he could in the build, and rather than have the wiring for his and appropriate that my camera starts moving during this sorry, a bit of turbulence during this, sorry here, Tom, and rather than have the wiring for the fuel gauge run through and or under or around the cockpit to face the pilot on the dash, he chose to save presumably weight, effort, material, and had the gauge behind the pilot, but revealed to him by a mirror on the dash. So he's looking at his gauge over his shoulder in a mirror, Tom Mahoney. And there's an argument that probably if he had another 3 to 8 seconds, 10 minutes to like really think about it and really consider what was going on, because I don't know if you know, I've been I'm lapsed now, but I'm a small plane pilot. For a number of years, from about 2002 to like last year when I ran out of cash to keep the dream alive.
Yeah.
But I can relate on that level, and also like on motorbike auxiliary tanks that I've also had to negotiate in my life. And there's just, you know, there's that little bitty, it doesn't matter if you're on the ground on a motorway or in the air over Monterey Bay, when you reach down and you're fiddling around under the tank after you've been riding for a few days, you know, you're like fiddling about and trying to, is it lefty loosey or righty? You know, and then, you know, you're looking at your own thumbs, at left, that's not an R. You know, when you're already confused and stressed,
yes,
which is what they think happened to John Denver, that he made the decision to not flip to his auxiliary tank when he'd run out of fuel, and then went into, I think, what they call a spiral dive, and spanked it into like basically shark food. If you've ever been around in that area, your chances of swimming to shore there, if you don't freeze to death, are probably like 1 in a billion to begin with.
But you know, if you're gonna go,
that's a fast way, Tom. I mean, like the getting there is it takes a little bit, but like once you reach the surface of the Pacific there, I think it's pretty quick after that, I'd imagine.
Yeah, you're not.
That clap I just made is one that it's rare as well, but when you have a structural failure, which you read about in, like, you know, when you're trying to scare yourself as a pilot, when both wings fail simultaneously, and you know, a passenger and crew get to hear the spank of wings over their head, right, like that, when the cockpit drops, right, like when you go into dive helicopter mode when you used to be an airplane, and the wings slap over the head. That's probably the last most definitive one, or one. While I'm on the thread of it, I was making it, as you probably have in your comedic life or in your creative life. You got to make like executive decisions on punchlines. And we were doing a sketch on, I'm not going to get you know, taken off the air, but rhymes with knob and first name Klaus. We have him in a show that we're working on right now in a helicopter. And I opted. I'm always like the I'm the obscure guy, Tom. I don't know, like for I'd rather like 2 people get it and the rest of them think, you know, that it wasn't funny. And go for the easy putt. But they opted for the easy putt. But my joke was going to make reference to you know, hey, good luck. I hope your Jesus nut doesn't fail you, right? And then I had to show the 2 other people in the production what the reference to a Jesus nut is. And then, once you're on Wikipedia, Tom, the amount of humor going on just really falls through the floor. I don't know if you found yourself that way as a comedian. Like, I'm sorry you didn't get that one, but I've just got to stand over here and I'll get some reception and be able to let you know that this actually exists, what I just mentioned back there, that made you go cold. You remember that minute? There's not just the Jesus nut, by the way, which are still pretty rare in aviation in the modern era in helicopters, but there's a reference to a Jesus pin. And if your audience isn't aware, it's basically the main rotor nut. And again, like modern helicopters, if anybody here, I in fact, I was about to advise you not to be worried if you get on a helicopter, but another bit of me just says, don't get on a fucking helicopter, no matter what you do. Because like, I don't know, if you're not aware of what helicopters are all about, but ever since Da Vinci drew one,
yes,
they've been trying to fucking tear themselves asunder as soon as they're not even in the air, when they're doing their safety checks on the ground, they're already, the tail's like, I might just fuck off into that field. I'm just going to twist the fuselage for a while and see if we can't fucking turn this bitch up, inside out before we even get off the ground, like they're death machines, if you're not aware of that anyway. But, most people wouldn't know that. But regardless, if you do have the faith to get in a modern one, know that the Jesus nut is no longer the main structural support for the entire main rotor system. They now have usually a series of collars and nuts and bolts that make up what used to be the main Jesus nut, which ironically, when they did go, they were famously, it was first referenced, I think, in the book Chicken Hawk, based on air cavalry US in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And even though I understand that that only a couple, if a couple, the last one modern was referenced in 2000, I think, where the Jesus nut itself actually failed. And interestingly, I'll tell you the most modern one in 2000 or 2002, whatever it was interesting, Tom. It failed in that it wasn't ever put on. Hey, did your Jesus nut crack? No, better than that, actually. We didn't bring it with us.
Yeah, it's in perfect condition at home.
But yeah, totally. It's oiled and on the workbench, actually, as far as I'm aware. But the modern configurations have a series of shackles and nuts which make up what the Jesus nut used to do. But when they became famous, again in reference, I believe, in the book Chicken Hawk, for the fear that they instilled in people who were frequenting helicopters often, I believe that fear only came from maybe only one or a couple of incidences that involved a total main rotor failure due to the Jesus nut cracking off, or breaking in any way, being compromised in any way. But funnily enough, if your audience hasn't cottoned on to what the reference makes the point of, is that when your Jesus nut goes, there's only one guy that can save you. That's the Jesus nut. As soon as the Jesus nut's got you, okay, all right, we're out of mechanical hands. So my thing for Mr. Klaus the Knob was going to be, something along the lines of, I see metal fatigue in your Jesus nut, or something subtle like that. And I was overruled because, it's funny, but nobody laughs, Hey.
Yeah, it can be a bit niche.
You commercial cunts. That's my response. Come on, go down in flames with me. Go down in flames. That's me and my production crew. Come on.
As there is that trade-off too, you know what I mean, where you can go, and that's why I've always like your comedy, that you'll stand there and go, no, but you know what I mean?
People that don't get it, Tom.
But there's almost an element where you're standing there going, no, trust me, this is funny as fuck right now. But there's that hateful trade-off where it's like, well, do I do what makes loads of money, which is this beige shit, or will I actually make actual funny stuff? Isn't there?
Thank you. Well, I think I'm a hard laugh. I'm assuming you feel the same way, likely, from a comedic point of view, that, if your audience again doesn't know, one of the most horrible things about choosing comedy or getting into, doing it more than once, or just, whatever, however much, there's no hierarchy in my mind as far, if you've done it or you like stood up at a wedding or whatever, you get it, you know how it feels when people are looking at you, and you just have in the back of your head, it's like, holy shit, they're looking at me, they're looking at me, they want to laugh because I'm here, and you have that pressure that you just you're challenged in that way, that you either go for the thing that like made you laugh on the day and try and convey that, or just it doesn't mean anything to me, really. I like when I get those compliments of people, that just say, hey, when you did that story. Yeah, they're usually the same stories, actually. They're just like, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard, or it's the hardest I've ever laughed. And it's nice when when you get that coming back at you, and that that's because like when you experienced that event, that you conveyed to them, hopefully accurately enough that they got it to the degree that you get a compliment like that your your experience was so emotive at the time, and that yourself, just the idiosyncrasies of ingredients that are necessary to make that serendipity become compounded. Or that idea of just like comedy where you're just hitting every step as you're rolling down the stairs, and you want it to get funnier and funnier and funnier before you're pancaked in the basement in the dark. You just really, and of course you and I both know that that's like one gig in 1,000 maybe, where it has that kind of resonance, where it has that kind of focus, where that's a big thing I think we're missing now, Tom, is just like lack of focus. Nobody wants to hear, probably as much as we've even conversed now in our your show and this conversation, just investment of time. Time is, I know, as I get older, you have less of it. You're exhausted quicker in the day. You've got to really dig deep to have energy, and your attention is fractured. Money is becoming exponentially worth less. So, I used to think about this when I was a younger comedian, where I'd be like on my motorbike mentioned earlier and just going to do 4 gigs. That'd probably be the maximum, but like a lot of gigs in a night. And just when you're kind of 10 years after that was, through my 20s and 30s into your 40s. And then there's just that reflection where you just think, holy shit, like there's no way I can keep this tempo alive.
Yeah.
And the money I'm making now is going to be worth like half of that in 5, if not 10 years, in terms of like buying power. And my rent's going to go up. And like, nobody's paying me more for the same time on stage since like 92. In fact, to give you some idea, it was even surreal for me. I have an English, Irish descended, English friend in Essex that I went to, illegally visit the other night. And we were talking about the old days, and I was just conveying to him, he was talking about growing mushrooms. Yeah. And I was talking about the first time I ever bought a pound of dry ones, and just that experience of like, as he was explaining the procedure of dehydrating them to get them into like, I won't say saleable, but like, to give to people.
Yes, yeah.
For service in kind. And the moment, and I'll tell you, Tom, like, it's not like I forgot, but one of the components of the story was that I paid at the time, this is like, way early 90s, I paid 1,400 Canadian dollars. And he was like, he reacted like you would, like maybe you just now, like, Jesus, fuck, that's like a pretty decent whack. And I can honestly tell you, Tom, it was just like, it's fucking loaded. then. Like,
Yeah.
Just go do a couple of gigs, and some of them were $1,000 and other ones were 12. And, you had 3 on a weekend, and then you had other gigs that paid your rent, and there were like enough that you didn't have to keep doing them when you didn't want to, and you didn't have to work early in the week. And so it was really strange even to convey this story that, of course, it strikes in my mind and resonates how much it cost me, because I remember it to this day, but I didn't think it was a chunk at the time. Oddly.
Yeah.
But regardless, I was still, it's not like I forgot the transaction. I still remember the guy and where I met him and how that happened. But I can tell you, I was not ready for a fucking guy to show up with why is there a man carrying a Santa sack towards my house, right? I just had no idea in my head of how much a pound of fucking dried mushrooms would be in volume, right? Just blew my mind. Didn't even remind me of why I had, fucking purchased them when he showed up. Who the fuck is this guy? It was like buying a bag of popcorn, Tom. But I'd argue even lighter than popcorn. They weighed nothing. I wasn't ready for it. I just
the water's where all the weight is, of course, and they're now dehydrated. So my God.
And of course that just led to, coffee in the morning with a nice chunk of chocolate, sometimes that also had mushrooms in it, and a face full of these big Mexican cubensis. And I was just actually, as I was in and out to the car checking the oil just before I spoke to you, that I was feeling again. I'm sure Ireland is even amplified about what I'm about to say, as far as in Canada they use Ireland for soap commercials and but I feel the same way just in England here, that it reminded me again. I had flashbacks to just living in Vancouver. I went out to check the oil in the car with sandals and no socks on and t-shirt in December, and just for a Canadian, I know it's odd, I don't want to harp on being a Canadian, but when you're checking the oil in your car in December and you're not wearing socks in your sandals, it's just holy fuck, am I in Hawaii? What's going on here, man? It's global warming, man, we're in trouble, but it just reminded me of living in Vancouver, where I bought those mushrooms, and just how through even the winter months, you just put on the rollerblades and get a fistful of Mexicans in you, and just riding through rainforests on windy paths, and just a real dream life. It was beautiful.
And have you considered, because you were saying how things have changed, because we are definitely going to be moving into the country, back to the countryside, because we're in pretty much Dublin at the minute, but it just doesn't make any sense anymore, given how things have panned out. It's there is apps, because even through the period that we were lifted from lockdown and whatever, I did, I think in total about 14 or 15 gigs, and not one of them was in Dublin. So it's because it was the most readily affected. All the rest was Galway, Cork, Limerick. So it was and Belfast. So it was, in my head, I'm going, well, if I'm going to be fucking driving, I may as well get to a cheaper place.
Totally. And be somewhere that's nice and that I like, rather than somewhere that's stressful and doesn't benefit me.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to get into the conspiracy, they'll find you, Tom. they're gonna find you, and they're gonna get you right back to Dublin. Maybe not where you want to live in Dublin, but or maybe to one of those. Is it the super city that they're about to build off Dundalk? And I've been reading
that they're talking about.
Yeah, that they're talking about. Yeah, you notice those people that talk about shit like that, they tend to hey, holy fuck, that's a new. Hey, look, honey, that was that shit those people were talking about 2 years ago. There was some.
I think there was a Chinese investment firm were talking about buying this big chunk of land. They're going, we'll just build, and we're only going to speak Mandarin, and we'll just do all our Chinese stuff here, if that's cool. What?
All our Chinese communist stuff in terms of smart buildings and image capture and all of. I'm always hesitant to to give tribute to Chinese communists for that. The Chai Cubs, as they call them. But because most people aren't aware that the majority of that is Silicon Valley technology, which even gets more insipid when you think that like such draconian technology is actually being used on human beings against their will, essentially, on the earth right now in ant farms in China, like what you could describe it as, and being applauded by our politicians, our political class, our governmental class as like, a plausible and admirable future. These people are ghouls. They're utter ghouls. But the idea that there's a lot of deception there, that it's like, hey, look what the Chinese are doing. Yeah, with our shit. Like, you think Huawei has a great research and development facility anywhere? Yeah, they do. It's called like getting a job here and taking your shit. That's what it's called. That's what their research and development is. Like, how it worked in our companies, which now we're seeing, obviously, the latest psyop that's broken wide open. I'm sure you're aware of is the infiltration of that that sect within Western nations, Western countries and governments, and you've seen that obviously the latest the leak from the Chinese Communist Party of the number of like operatives that are embedded in American.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Canada, we're right up there. You guys are going to be all over it, just like when they're talking about us, Tom. They're talking about our guys, right? So. But I'm also hesitant to like, I don't dive headlong into what the mainstream news tells me on a Monday fucking morning when Google's down and YouTube stops working, right? Like, you also have to be like hesitant into just like hook, line, and sinker. It's like, who's telling me that the Chinese have infiltrated, and have they? And I hesitate, not the Chinese, the Chai Coms, the people who have the Chinese people in a prison, have infiltrated. And, now you're into who's telling you that and for what reasons, where's that deception going from? Do we want a low level simmering, war with an ascendant superpower on the earth? Probably not, but that's clearly what they're brewing us for. And, when you just look at the collusion between, number one, the president-elect, as you want to say, his deep collusion with that actual body of individuals. It's a very volatile situation. We're in a very terrifying time.
I remember watching a program about garlic wars one time. It was one of the most interesting fucking documentaries I ever watched. And it was garlic wars, and it was trying this small little there was small middle America did a small holding, and they wanted to start their own garlic company. And it was like garlic fucking mafia just descended on him, going, nah.
Once there was some money in it.
You ain't fucking touching the garlic game. We got the garlic game. And it was mostly backed by Chinese, and it was the same series had honey as well. And it was like the honey mafia as well. And it was mostly backed by the Chinese. But the way they were used, like the peeled garlic seemed to be the ones in jars, in brine or whatever, were big in America. And they had prisoners they were peeling them. But these poor bastards had even lost their nails at this stage, and they were just using their teeth to try and get the skin off. And they were working the shit out of these people. This is like 2 years ago. What the fuck? For garlic?
Yeah, I get it. Nothing shocks me, and you can see it. Right.
Every bit of that, you were like,
Another subject matter that doesn't shock me in any way in terms of like human beings being worked to the bone or being like criminally manipulated to produce a product. It doesn't, that's why I said at the beginning, there's money in it. If there's profit in it, of course there's now crime involved. There's whether it's like officially sanctioned crime that involves, the Garda also being there, or just like Eastern European mafia bosses that keep, even though it's legal in Holland, prostitution alive. It doesn't matter what the hell it is. If there's money in it, there's crime in it, unfortunately, in our little world. But when you mention it, I thought I had a garlic war. Like my life is a garlic war. Actually, when I think about it, I've had garlic wars in my mouth before with, you took my mind back to when I was early 90s. Back, I remember when I had all that money, man. I had my motorbike and all those gigs, and I just went everywhere around the world. Just flew to Kuala Lumpur, and I'm just like, yeah, I can hang out here for a few months and then head to Thailand. And I at the time, I already enjoyed eating hot food. I like spicy food. And if you've not been to Thailand particularly, there's just that kind of, they've seen a lot of tourists, they've seen a lot of gringos. And if you like hot food, if you like particularly spicy Thai food and you go to Thailand, if you're not like, now I'm more au fait with like the Thai language, you have to learn the pet ma.
I love that. It's so aggressive.
It's like, look at me, I didn't fall off the boat. I wanted hot. Give it to me hot. You like pet ma, but I didn't know pet ma when I was first there. I like hot food, but every time I get to the front of the queue, they just give me like fucking gringo mush.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can you put a pepper in it? And just to give you an example, the first place that I experienced the pet ma that jumped me, in fact, the garlic war, was I'd gone to like it was a papaya salad, got pretty common Thai dish, and they also have little like peppers, like Thai peppers. You look like a Scotch bonnet. They may,
right.
In fact, and so I watched a couple of people in front of me. Just, of course, I don't speak the language at all, so I just I'm like pointing at stuff once I get up to the front, and I point at the peppers, and the guy just like right. Like I'm not gonna give those to you, right?
You're not ready. You're not ready. You're too white.
You can't handle the peppers, man. And I just like, what? And I didn't know. Now I'd just be like, fuck you, pet ma. Pet ma. You want money, pet ma? Just like fucking different guy now, right? But at the time I'm like, oh, okay, you can punk me off. And I had a little side conversation with one of the monks, or somebody on the side that spoke a bit of English, and I was like, can you tell fucking cunt face that I'd like some fucking, since I didn't fly, I'm not coming back tomorrow. Can you get me some hot fucking food here? And they had a little, I'll never forget this, Tom. They had a little exchange. Back and forth. He goes, you say, you try one, you like it, you come back. So I just like, okay, we're gonna play like fucking. Now I got a contract with fucking two guys I've never met before, and so I fucking give him the dosh and walk over. Tom, my Christ, I go. So I'll never forget. I remember the configuration of like the eating area, and I sat on the end of a fucking like big picnic table. Maybe it's pretty round, and like 80 people watching me, and I fucking like. I got through that dish, Tom, but it took a while. It
really?
Was like I was eating fire. Sweating profusely. It's already hot out, and my pride had taken over at that point, so I just spooning shit into my face and barely getting through the meal. But I learned from that experience in Thailand that it was always really difficult unless you stayed in a place for a long period of time, that you got in a relationship with the chef or chefs, that you could each time you come back, just say, just a bit more, please. Just a bit more.
Right. Yeah.
A bit more. You had that going on. And I was in that relationship with this one guy in a restaurant. And I kept going back and back and back. I'm just like, could you just please just give me that little bit more. And he fucking blew me open. He just said, here, what's going on is like, I could pour like 1,000 peppers into your face, but you're only going to be able to absorb X amount of them anyway. What you want to do is order a dish with heavy garlic. He said the garlic will open up your taste buds. It'll make your mouth and your taste buds more receptive to the peppers that I put in. I'll have to put in less pepper, but believe me, you'll be on a rocket ship to where you're headed right now. And I'm just like, oh, fucking hell. Your English is impeccable.
You sound exactly like me.
Yeah, just like, hey, shit. And then I learned Pet Ma, from then. But that's, as soon as you mentioned the garlic wars, it's just like, yeah, that's what. And like, I encourage your listeners, if you're ever wanting to get your face ripped right off, just make sure you eat garlic heavily with your peppers, and it will amplify your pepper experience.
The big question is, what way was your arse? after that, because your description, all I'm thinking is the end result. Now that I'm heading for 40, I know where.
It's still, to this day, it's prosthetic and porcelain. They had to give me a couple of new links just to get me out of there. I was an upside down bucket for a couple of years straight, for sure. Yeah, that's something as well, isn't it? Where you're just like, Jesus, what's this tummy ache all about? I quite enjoy memories of traveling in Asia, those kind of those moments, just have you ever had for example, the last time I was thinking about it, a tropical illness. I was telling a friend about I was in Sumatra, north tip of Sumatra.
Wow.
Close to where the tsunami really hit in the Aceh province there. And it was the first time we were talking about how wonderful it is when you can't speak a language, but a doctor is able to convey just with like facial expressions.
Yeah.
That like, I've seen this a billion times before. I know you think you're gonna die, but everything's gonna be okay in like a minute and a half. Take these; they cost like nothing. And take them 3 times a day, and you're going to be okay. And it was just like to be somebody who like literally, it's the first time I had ever experienced, Tom, like passing out, for example, puking and shitting, like when you were passed out, right? Like waking up on a shower floor, just, and just fucking, you're trying to focus on not puking, and then you're shitting yourself, right? Just like your body is being possessed by an illness. And also like uncontrolled. First time I'd ever dealt with uncontrolled like chin, like when I was in the experience of eating dinner with people, and all I wanted to do was just say like, I really don't feel well and I have to leave. Sorry to be rude. Can you catch my meal, please? I wasn't able to convey that, Tom. Like I like not working. I'd never had that before. Like, and then I remember like I still remember like trying to cross the road to get back to the place I was staying, and it was just like like shivering. I realize now it was just shivering, but it felt like your chin was out of your control. And then, of course, like, just oh fuck, you're twisted because you're in a tropical place and you realize you're cold, you're shivering because you're freezing, right. And that's a weird experience. So now I put on I still have the sleeping bag, my old blue kazoo, the old put on the old blue kazoo and put it up, and then whatever it was, an hour later, 2 hours later, just like hotter, sweating profusely, hotter than you've ever been hot in your life, right? Just like, so now I'm just like, I've gone from shivering to like, I'm having to literally, well, this is how I ended up on a shower floor, and couldn't have been more surreal because it was underneath a zoo, Tom. Oh, going on in the background. I'm just like, just like everything's going on at once, like a sensory overload. But I started to like overheat. And I just realized, like, you take off your sleeping bag, obviously. Yeah, of course, it's a hot place. I should not have a down bag on. So I unzip that and, like, just start to realize, holy shit, I'm getting hotter. I'm sweating more. I still am getting warmer. I was cold like an hour ago. And now I'm, like, getting to that point where I'm just, like, I had the wherewithal to just think, holy, where's the shower block? I need to cool off. And I just like went to the shower area, and that's when I like woke up in the bottom, and like just with water running and fucking baboons shrieking and just like and birds quacking and I just like fucking all over. And then of course you wake up in the morning and fuck me, it's a bluebird day. You just like feel totally normal, perfect. You think, what the hell happened? And I went to see the guy. I was there trying to climb a mountain called Merapi, a volcano that I wasn't able to because it was active or too active to let the gringos on it. Yeah. And I went to the guide that I had spoken to about that. And I still remember, I said, I was out for dinner with a couple of Danes and, a fucking guy from Oz, and like my mouth started going. He's like, he's like, oh yeah. Oh, I know what happened to you. And I was just like, yeah, but I, don't worry, I'm okay. And he's like, you're not okay. I can tell you right now, like, you got to go to the doctor, like, now, because you're just like, it's coming back. It'll come back. You won't like it when it comes back. I'm just like, what, really? He's just like, yeah, don't wait. Do not hesitate. Like, it's dormant now, but it's going to come back tenfold if you leave it.
What was it, like malaria or something? Or what the hell did you have?
Just like whatever their local fucking, like their deli belly, really, which I've also had, you know, of course. But I went to the doctor, and I was remembering the last time I was conveying this story, it was a bit disappointing just because, I don't want to get like all sappy on you, but I was rushed to the front of a very, like, you know, I'm not going to say third world, but developing nation clinic. And it was, you can imagine, you know, the people that were there with kids and women and groups and families and people who were in real dire straits without a social safety net were just like, you know, there for a long time. And I just got moved right up to the front and went into the doctor, and he just like, yeah. And, oh, that's why we were talking about it, because it's the first time I'd ever experienced the rebound test. So they poke in deep into your abdominal walls, into your abdominal tissue. Yeah. And then the next test, oddly, that like sometimes gives indication of inflammation in intestine, is they push in real slowly and deeply, Tom, and then they move their hand away quickly, and it's just like, and they're on me, like just shrieking like a fucking chick. He just like right away, he's just like, yeah. Oh yeah. He's just like, yeah, you got that. And I'm like, okay, what's that? And he just fucking gave me the bag, and literally was like, I still have some of those as souvenirs. Like, just it went away right away. But we were talking about it. Maybe again, I like to give people, you know, if you're still listening or watching at this point, just know that, like, I've also had, for example, deli belly, and if you have a problem like that, obviously, you know, travel arrangements. Oh, what are we talking about, Tom? You're never traveling again. This is just kind of story of what used to happen when you traveled before international communists took over your countries and removed any rights that you have from you. Okay, so but imagine back in the old days, the best advice that I can convey on that is that as I learned from the deli belly, and similarly, I got the same or the local problem in Egypt. In fact, deli belly, I'd already learned the lesson, but in Egypt, I learned that the best and easiest way to treat things is where you got it, 100%. Like literally, you know, as in, you know, in India, if you get deli belly and you go to a local pharmacy or a clinic or wherever, they're just like my experience in Indonesia. They'll just give you the bag of the stuff that deals with your thing, and it's gone in minutes, and you don't ever think about it again. But if you do, as happened to me in Egypt, when it's like the last day that you're there, we were diving in the Sinai and then just did like a quick Luxor trip to check out the pyramids. I had like, hey, sure, of course I'll have a falafel. Like, you know, just one of those like violently ill moments, right? Where you're just like, fuck, I've never puked out of my eyes before. You know, just like literally where your fucking head explodes like an Ebola victim. And I then just like, you know, kind of put a cork in it, you know, sit on a towel and just like got on the fucking flight. And then you get back to England and you're just like, you know, hey, I was just in Egypt and now like my asshole's gaping and bleeding and I can't hold food down. And they're just like, I don't know, call an Egyptian friend of yours. Like literally just, we don't know where to start. You know, you expect that they're just going to hand you that bag of pills that's going to be a little bit more because you're in a Western country, but it's not like that at all. Now you're just like a patient in the fucking medical system. You have to go be, you know, diagnosed and have tests done, and you know, they don't just like assume that they know what the hell it is because you're sick and in front of them. So again, like, you know, again, you're never traveling again. This will never happen to you. Yep. But if it ever does, if you ever like, you know, are a part of the elite and somebody, you know, has a Learjet and you get to go somewhere and this happens to you, before you stuff a towel in your hole and get back on the Learjet, get it dealt with where you are. Definitely, you know, get your issues medically dealt with in the place that you started to have that problem. Because, like, you know, the Western nations are just, it's funny how advanced we are, Tom, but like, just stuff like that is just like, I don't know.
Yes. You know, a friend of mine.
With your friends recently, or, you know, it's amazing the kind of, I find now, especially that our medical system, nearly immediately just goes into like psychological assessment
Yeah.
to try and find out if you're nuts, and they really don't have to deal with you anymore. In my experience, anyway. I for example, I'll proudly tell you, and I've lost some of my hearing from a naproxen prescription that I had a few years ago from when my osteoarthritis first onset. And I'm an asshole, Tom. I'd been on a 100-kilometer race with some friends in Sweden, and I'd really pushed my hips harder than they ever had. I had no idea I had arthritis. I just like assumed up until that point that all of the pain and feedback I was getting was sore and tired muscles, and, you know, rub A535 and Tiger Balm and, you know, cold and hot and all the easy stuff. I had no idea, Tom, that, you know, you've got no cartilage on your femur. You never assume that. Nobody ever
No.
I'm a pretty young guy. Yeah, you've got raw meat where you used to have like smooth fucking cartilage. Okay, but they gave me, because I like at that point couldn't walk, they gave me what's essentially, you know, what turmeric could have done, or particularly like high-end turmeric, or, you know, distilled in a chemical way turmeric could have done over like 2 or 3 weeks. I chose to go the, you know, modern medicine route, which is essentially pharmacological products, which in this case, like the, you know, the race car of that set is naproxen. And I was 3 days into a 5-day prescription, Tom. It was a Wednesday, and I'll never forget it. I was doing some editing, and I had my cans on, and I was just like, fuck, that, you know, the sound's fucked. That's, you know, I just thought, shit, how am I going to get this buzz off of the, like, I don't know what I was picking up. I'd done a documentary of a friend's reindeer trip in Norway, and I was just like killing myself because I just thought, shit, this is really humming. And I don't know, you know, like if you're an editor, or if you produce any digital or video, you know, that like sort of background shop floor drilling are really, really hard to get rid of. And then just like the shock of realizing it's in your head, Tom, right? Like,
Jesus.
Just like freaky as, and like just really over the top, you know, just like buzzing, and then just that, like, you quickly read, you know, again, I'm sure I'm describing a lot of people's departure into tinnitus that have experienced this, and you just, I don't encourage you even to, if you have onset tinnitus, they're just like, I don't want to say there's no hope, but essentially there's no hope. You know, like if you read, it's just bad news. You just read bad news after bad news. You don't hear about it coming, and then people are just like, yeah, then I just, you know, did a lemon flush, and, you know, everything was bad. I ate charcoal for a day and a half, and now here, you know, woo, Bob's your uncle. None of that. It's just like you're now permanently fucked. And I got into. I immediately got in touch with my doctor. And of course, you know, what do, Tom? You fucking go to the bathroom, and you go through the rubbish bin, and you get out the fucking naproxen box and the fucking insert. And it's just like, you know, fucking death, you know, that hearing loss, you know, fucking tinnitus. Yeah. And it's just like, oh! Luckily, you're the only person that can't hear yourself. The whole valley's like, what happened? You know, just like fucking, you know, just like, it's coming from inside your head. There's that little bit of you that's like, oh, your footage of the reindeer is good. You know, just like fucking, yay. And but what do? You go in and see like a doctor that you trusted, your family doctor, a guy that you've seen 100 times over, you know, 15, 20 years of living in the UK. And just, Tom, fuck me. First of all, I called him and I just said, hey, just for your knowledge, like my hearing's fucked. I still yet don't know what we can do about that, because I'm reading a lot about it. But and of course, any doctor, you know, in the UK, I've been reading about it. Oh, we don't like that. You know, just like, oh, we don't want you to have any fucking idea what's going on, because we're selling drugs here. You know, just like, but regardless, I like got in touch. I'll never forget. It was a Wednesday. I'm just like, you know, I've read the insert, and now I'm having these symptoms. And to his credit, he did say, like, immediately stop taking them. He did say that. He said, stop taking them. So he made that connection, which was nice. But then, like, you know, he said, come and see me tomorrow. It was quite quickly, whether it was tomorrow or the next day. It was like, again, I give tribute. That's, you know, a big deal to be able to see a doctor short notice. But I went in and fuck me, Tom. Just fuck me right away. Just like, so, Tom, have you have you been having some problems at home?
Oh, the bastard. The bastard.
I could have fucking just, whoa, like it was all I could do to maintain my psychological composure, to be dealing with somebody so fucking demonic that they would suggest that I was having a psychosomatic manifestation of my hearing loss that was due to what he had given me only 72 hours previously, right? Just like, holy living shit fuck. And I was just in that moment of like, you're telling me that you have never in your prescription life had anybody give you feedback that these have affected their hearing when it's clearly on the fucking label that they can and do. And he just said, he did, to his credit, he just said, I've not had that experience. I'm like, okay, I get that. But like, for your knowledge, the next time you are prescribing this, and again, like I was kicking myself, Tom, because I could run out to the garage and show you. Sorry, I almost was British there. The fucking garage. Go out to the fucking garage. Everybody thinks Canadians are French, right? What the fuck? What did you say? Garage? Fromage, garage. Yeah, you guys got something different. But regardless, I could go out and show you like why modern pharmaceutical products kill. It's estimated in the States between 200 and, if you put it with British numbers, I think, which are about 60,000 a year, you're into like arguably 400 and change thousand people die from on-label use of prescription drugs, but like inarguably over 225,000 people die of using drugs as they're prescribed by their physician every year, 100%, and that's just one of those things that I knew, Tom. That's why I was annoyed with myself. That's why I bring up the mentioned earlier, the shit that stains everything yellow. Fucking
turmeric.
Say again?
Turmeric. It's good gear, isn't it? Yeah.
Turmeric, which, turmeric does for you what naproxen does for you overnight, basically. Turmeric added to your porridge, turmeric added to your meals constantly. Cumulative turmeric, is something that, but I was just that asshole. I'm just, you want everything fixed quick. You just come in the door from a race. You can barely move. You kind of want to be doing it the fast way, Tom. And the fast way, as lucky I talk so much, or I'd noticed my own tinnitus.
But I remember I was friendly enough a guy. He lived next door to me when I lived down in Cork, and he had gotten out of the pharmacy game. He owned a pharmacy, and he ended up getting property. He ended up owning 3, and the guy never wanted to work. He was like, "Oh no, they're fine and all, but I'm selling all of them, and I'm never working again. No, I've worked out exactly how much I need every year if I live till about 80, so I'm never fucking working again. Fuck that." He just wanted to just go around his boat, just around Ireland in his boat and stuff. But but I remember him saying to me, because I was never. Thankfully, I've never I've never needed much. And I remember my grandfather, who's still alive and flying it at 99 years of age.
Wow.
And
well done.
He doesn't doctors. If I break shit, I'll talk to the doctor. But if it ain't broken off, we'll be all right. Be all right. And that man has never taken a multivitamin. He's never done shit. He's eaten about 4 different meals in his life, and 3 of them probably all contain beef.
Amazing. Awesome. I get that. I'd say that's sound and amazing advice. It's amazing advice. And that's why I'm angry. I'm angry at the doctor for presuming psychological issues.
That was a motherfucker move. Like,
yeah,
he saw a legal action there, and he went,
totally.
What'll I say to him when he comes in next?
Yeah, totally. But what bothered me, and of course it is ass protection, because if you read anything about tinnitus, he might be right. Unfortunately, because they don't know. It's inconclusive. So he can't be roped in that way. But I'm mad at the man in the mirror 100%. I was angry and felt guilty for my own actions, because I know the advice that you just gave. And that's like, if you're not like, being carted away in an ambulance because you're unconscious and people don't know who you are, don't go in, It's like, it's a dangerous it's a dangerous place. I'm somebody who, like I mentioned earlier, thank God nothing to do with my flying career as long as I had one. But motorcycling from a very young age, mountain biking, snowboarding, skiing at home, hockey. I just like, Tom, I was just one of those people that like, I was able to assess fractures accurately.
Yeah. I'm with you.
From day dot, right? Like real early days. Like, you know, yeah, if anybody's, a lot of people, you meet them, I'm strange when I meet them, but like you do meet people that say, no, I've never broken a bone. I'm like, what the living fuck? What? Just like, holy shit. Like I like literally broken dozens of fucking bones. And you just get into that. Like, you know how your head feels, you know, you get the sweats, you know, you get the endorphin rush, you get the release, you see the fucking distortion, you see the coloration, you know, it's just like, fuck, a broken, you know, I used to talk about on stage that I would only go to the hospital to confirm that I had broken my bone, right?
Yeah. I genuinely, I've kind of done that gone, thank you. That is 2 ribs. You're 100% right. That's what I was thinking.
Totally. That's for me, the big one, the one I enjoyed talking about on stage was the ribs, because you would know if you've broken your ribs abundantly. I love asking, I don't know what style your comedy is, Tom, but I love asking an audience to, you know, to get responsive, like, you know, has anybody here broken their ribs? Invariably, you know, a number of people have, and it's just like, and what can they do? And it's just like, sweet fuck all, right? It's just like, hey, I think I've broken my ribs, and you go to the emergency room and wait around for half the day and half of tomorrow, and they're just like, we can confirm you've broken your ribs. It's just like, okay,
just shake your hand and say goodbye.
Yeah, totally. Just like, enjoy your weekend. It's like, fuck, I waited here. I've spent fucking 40 quid in the parking lot for parking. Can you give me something? And they're like, yes, try not to sneeze when you're taking a shit. And I advise, this isn't a good weekend to take mushrooms. Enjoy your life. You know, just like that sort of like concurrence. In fact, if I can digress just quickly, it's one of my favorite ones too. I also this is my the state of my my finger.
Nice.
And
for the audio listeners, Craig is holding up his index finger and it looks like shit. It looks almost like my thumbs.
Yeah, it's hey, look around that corner. One of my favorite moments in life, Tom. Again, because like, you know, not that most of the time you don't need to be told when a finger looks like that it's been broken. But I was there were some English climbers on Mont Blanc had released a lot of like slate type of heavy rock, and like I heard it before I heard them calling. They were kind enough to call. They were yelling below rock, and I'm old school. It's an apology for others, but you know, there's that argument that like, hey, you know, if you're ahead of them, they can't knock rocks at you, right? That slow ass, you're going to take some rocks in the face if you don't like run up the mountain quicker. That, you know, obviously logistics dictate that doesn't hold true in reality, but regardless, they were sending a lot of debris down. And I had the wherewithal to like get my face out of the way. I was in like kind of a ledgy area, and I had my face down, but I was in a precarious enough place that I had to have my hands on the lip. And so I was like over the top. I had my big buffalo skin motorbike gloves on, and I was holding it, and fuck me, Tom, I heard the rock that hit me. I heard the motherfucker. I heard it just like, it was like a galloping horse. Like I could hear the pop, 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 like increasing amplified noise and getting closer. And it was just like, it was surreal, right? Just like, no, bang! Just like that explosion of like the noise and the impact of fucking big old fucking boulder onto the finger, onto the, you know, to the top of the just below the knuckle. And so you know, my climb's over. I down climb, which was pretty fucking intense, like just one arming it. And I got down to I still remember, I'm reminded now, because I got down to the medical center in Chamonix, and I was waiting there for a little while. I'm not impatient, and you know, I don't want to put pressure on it. I'm one of those guys, I got a guilt complex about, I don't want to pressure the system, and I feel bad that I'm there. You know, you get all those kind of.
It's a very Irish thing to do as well. It's like, oh Jesus, no, I know my head is hanging off, but if you have a moment, that'd be great.
If you have a moment, please, would you mind putting my fucking leg back on? Yeah, I had that feeling about it, and but it was like Kelly McGillis in Top Gun, the fucking surgeon. I couldn't believe it. took his helmet off and like gave his head a little wavy shake. And like he had longer hair than mine, Tom. Fucking outrageous. Like the head surgeon of the fucking Chamonix fucking medical clinic was just like a fucking long hair. Like me, it was fucking nuts. Like, holy shit, that never happens, right? And so he got off his motorbike with his helmet, let his fucking long hair wave out, and then fucking wandered in. So the reason I was waiting was there was no doctor there at that point, and he came in specifically for it. So we get the x-rays done, and he comes over to me, and this is the bit that I love to tell you about, just because he says to me, but he's looking at he puts it up against the back reflector, right? You know, he's got some light flying through it, and he points at it, assuming I get, he doesn't realize I'm of Canadian descent and have some rudimentary French, of course, and by law forced upon me. I don't say wasn't like my curiosity as a child, I can assure you. But regardless, he honestly will remember this for the rest of my life. He just said, you say, I do not know how you say in English, but this bone here is pureed.
Loud and clear, Doc. Loud and clear.
I just like, fuck, I know exactly what that word means. I know I usually apply it to my smoothie in the morning, but like, I get it, man. I got a pureed fucking bone. And then, Tom, I fucking loaded up my R1200 BMW and I fucking rode a motorbike from Chamonix
with his pointy finger.
UK with a pureed fucking finger. And I can tell you that my eyes were barely inside the helmet for the majority of that ride. I was just like, I had never been more awake without caffeine in my system in my life. Just like every time I wanted to give a bit of throttle, it was, I tried to wear like a mitten rather than my motor. Oh my God, man. It was just literally, I remember like making sort of subtle eye contact with cars at, 70, 80 miles an hour on motorways in France. And just like fucking, just looking at a family of people, just like, if you only fucking knew what's going on, right? Just like, just fucking, whoa. Oh, it was madness. It was wonderful madness.
The beauty of it is it's kind of nearly as you get more accepting of broken shit. You're like, well, it is what it is. Because like that, my grandfather's maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we were down home for Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And he rang my parents' house and said, he was asking for me, and I hadn't lived at home in years, but he would, is Tom there? And he was like, yeah, okay. And I put him on the phone. Genuinely, the guy, maybe 94 at the time, he went, I said, all right. He went, yeah, well, I said, I wanted you on the phone because the rest of them will make a fucking scene. I think I've done a bit of mischief to my leg.
Mischief.
I go in, right?
Yeah.
His story was because they'd had a heavy freeze in where he was, and his neighbor, who was an old lady in her 80s, in his eyes, he was brought her up a 10-gallon drum of water because his taps were fine, and he slipped on the ice on the way back. His fucking shin was at 90 degrees. And up on he went, I think I've done a bit of mischief. I went,
whoa! It must have taken till like last week to heal.
They said it because you'll be lucky if that ever heals properly.
Yes, I was gonna say.
He went, it'll fucking heal. I'll be driving in 6 weeks. He fucking was.
Wicked.
Yeah.
How amazing.
No limp, no nothing. Just
well,
okay.
I take heart from that story, Tom, because again, to wallow in my own arthritis, I can say, like, as somebody who has always, like, egotistically, I would argue, embraced not just cold but the winter. I've always loved the winter. It's one of the things I most miss about Canada. One of the things I most like to find I concur with or can experience and with countries like Switzerland or Norway. One of my favorite things to appreciate about them is how cold the water out of the tap is in the winter. Cold, ice cold, like just, I'm from Calgary where the mountains meet the prairies, and in the, from October to like May, the water is just fucking coming out from underneath us.
That'll wake you up.
Ice, you know, it's just beautiful, just like hydrogen, you know, cold. Just and I've always really enjoyed and appreciated that. But like since my sort of, you know, arthritis has really taken over a lot of my conversation in life, I don't like it as much, Tom. I'm kind of like I'm a bit afraid. I don't want it to snow. I can understand your grandfather trying to get around on icy walks, and you know, I mean, it's easy for us to think about. It's not actually. I like when I think of the disasters, Tom, the disasters I've had as an able-bodied fit man on ice, on snow, like. To quickly digress, I still remember, I just went by it 2 Octobers ago in a place called Williams Lake that my dad thought he was the most hilarious man to call Billy's Puddle. Regardless, Williams Lake, British Columbia.
That's such a dad thing. Billy's Puddle.
Swift Current, Speedy Creek. You know, when the winter had rolled around and they put chains on the trucks, they call it the jewelry. Huh? These guys like fucking kill themselves laughing all fucking day, putting the jewelry on her. Bit rough out there today, but I'm staying in this place called the Overlander Hotel, Tom. This fucking hour. And back in my fucking, we were talking before you were taping, my Garth Brooks days, right? When I was still like into country, I used to wear these in the winter, Tom, in Canada, like roper boots, you know? Like a low cowboy fucking cowboy boot with just like leather fucking soles on them, right? I come out of this Overlander Hotel, Tom, again, like, you know, I was a fit guy. I snowboarded and skied a lot, had great balance from hockey, skating. I come out of this hotel, Tom, I'm wearing my roper boots. It's like fucking sheet ice. And I just start heading towards the Counting Highway. Right? And I'm holding it together, right? I'm like fucking a guy who's in like a semi-basketball ready position and just like fucking riding it, but not seeing any out. I'm like, holy shit, I better fucking pile it in somewhere before I hit the highway, right? I'm like I'm coming down a ramp that's going on to the main road. You know, Canada, it's like fucking, there's Highway 1 and then the other highway, you know, the one that intersects it. There's no like fucking group of highways. Because like I'm heading towards the north-south route, like Highway fucking 97 as it was, and just like fucking luckily hit gravel at the bottom and ended up like, I don't know if anybody saw it, they'd just still be laughing today, I can assure you, just seeing a guy in like a full fucking speeding up as he's going down an on-ramp and in a parking lot to a hotel and having to lay it out before I like literally got hit by semis. Just
there's a moment where you just have to dump it, don't you? Go, all right, we're putting this in the ditch.
But Tom, fuck, if you're 99, like your grandpa, like, you know,
but his brain doesn't operate like, listen, his family, his mother was 104, his dad was 98, like his sister, his older sister is still going, his older brother just died, like yeah, like my old man, which would be his son, is close to 70 and still has a six-pack. But he's very holistic. He'd be like he's been banging the turmeric drum for 20 fucking years. Like, yeah.
How awesome!
And bloke just doesn't. He hasn't gotten a cold since the week after I was born.
Wicked.
Yeah, fucking animal. Rare. Yeah.
How cool and rare. Did he ever give you what his epiphanies were? Was that a lifelong commitment? What did he?
Keep it simple. Just keep it simple and steer away from fucking man-made shit. If you can, just keep it fucking simple. And that's what that pharmacist I was telling you about. He said the very same thing. He said, I'm going to let you in a little secret here. If there's something to cure you, it's in nature. Just go fucking look. Get yourself a. And this was early 2000s. It was like, get yourself a book. Now there is an internet to go fucking looking. Yes. There's a thing to cure you. All right, you got a broken bone. There ain't many leaves you can take to fucking solve that, sir. But you know, and his thing was, if there is a cure, and they've, you know, it's in nature. You just gotta know where to fucking look.
And it rhymes with marijuana. Of course, cannabis. Yeah, fucking beautiful. What a pleasure.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. This has been a fucking whirlwind, man. The hour, we just went fucking flying by. You have, it's Apocalypse. Is that
Apocalypse TV? Yeah. We've had our second episode come out last Saturday, and we're doing them every Saturday. It's a lot of work, but Monday is like a bit of a breather day for me, and I appreciate you letting me.
Awesome. And where can people? Where's the best place to find it? Where's up first?
On the alternate on the alternate platform, iconic.com. So
oh yeah, I found it, and I'll put it in the show notes under this. So
yes,
as people hearing this, have a gander at that. You will not be disappointed.
Oh, nice. Yeah. The first episode, we spoke to a guy that I'm friends with from way back named Dave Snedeker. He's an ex-Final Four basketball player that made it to he was on a Cinderella team, the Providence Friars, and they lost to Syracuse, but he's played at the top end. And my buddy Sean Collins I spoke to in the first episode as well, and he's just come back from Sweden, where they've done a documentary called The Other Way, or Another Way, which is basically like a comedian leaving the UK to show that there's somewhere in the world that they're not in lockdown and they don't have all of the silly mandates that we have to be able to still perform in a group of human beings in a room, which is incredible. And the most recent one, this last Saturday that went out, the second episode, I spoke to a guy named Legal Man, who's just like an American constitutional lawyer and a wealth of information knowledge. So that's what I'm doing, Tom. Much maybe like yourself. I was going to ask you, I don't know how you know me or have even heard about me, but I'm very pleased that you got in touch, and I really enjoyed talking to you. But that's what I'm doing. I'm just like getting in touch with people I want to talk to that I've spoken with that I don't think are getting sort of the airtime that you I don't even say it's not even a deserved thing. It's not, I don't feel that way. I'm not coming from it from a point of being aggrieved. Yeah. And I don't look at our conversation or our work being something that, other people owe us or anything. I just want to talk to people that I am really entertained by what I already know about them, and then have a great time at work, right? It's pretty easy, right? It's like, and it's just nice to be able to do that on our own rather than having like an apparatus that makes those decisions for us. So it's very organic.
Yeah,
very organic.
I did the backdrop purely for you as well. It says,
oh, did you?
Yeah, I remember you saying that you liked wood. So
of
course. You had a great hope.
It was wood, but I'd have been appreciating it more. I like the rougher hewn stuff, if I'm honest.
It's a pallet.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It's two pallets I split up and just fucking stuck them together.
I was looking at the pink and the black, and I thought, this, he's a good painter, this fella. But
no, it's the real deal. It's two pallets that were in a building site right next door, and I was like, can I have those? Because the back behind my camera looks really fucking boring. So he was like,
I wonder, I when I see Irish wood, I just think, where the hell did they import from? Would it be, I'd imagine, probably Scandinavia?
It is typically, the timber here is typically Scandinavian. There's some grown here, all right, in our forest, but for the most part, because, the construction industry is strong here, the majority of it is Scandinavian. Why? There was a period during the boom where some shit timber was coming from Brazil, and it was shit. And those...
Sorry to interject there. It reminds me of, and it's something, if you're allowed to travel at any point in the future, I encourage people to go. I did a trench tour of Ypres, where the first gas attack was, and where it was mainly manned by Canadian troops in World War I. And where, in fact, in Flanders Fields was written by a Canadian doctor in a behind the lines hut, protected hut. But I bring that up just because it's really one of the most curious things about it, and it's very reminiscent of the backdrop behind you, that because the trenches would change position so regularly and often throughout the conflict, that depending on which way the bullets were coming, they would be using different timber from different sources. Right. So to this day, you can see like sort of the German concrete, and then the Canadian or the British concrete, and similarly like Canadian timber against European timber as the entire thing changed hands over time. So it's a pretty exciting place to go. I'd encourage anybody to go there. It's of course quite solemn, and I can tell you it's also interestingly where Hitler ran messages in the trenches.
Oh.
So it's also got that twist to it. But the thing that most struck me, Tom, other than it's the first place that I ever saw a Canadian helmet on a plinth, which was somewhat emotional, you know, to have that experience. But there's a sign, I don't know where you'd ever see it again, but it's probably quite prominent. But as part of the tour, we went, and there was one of those plaques that you often see, World War I, you know, 1914 to 1918, the war to end all wars.
Yeah.
And that, Tom, that brass plaque with that wording on it had 2 bullet holes in it from
Jesus.
World War II. Fucking madness, like just, you know, fucking shots. And it's like, well, hey, that worked out. Holy shit, get down. You know?
I'll learn you.
Yeah, totally. Sorry to digress, but that's it has that kind of darkness that your backdrop has, like blackish pine, you know, that aged pine. Very cool.
Beautiful. Well, that wasn't what I was going for, but I'm so happy that I ended up with that.
I'll bet. Hey, what an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for asking me to be on your podcast. And
It was a delight.
Best of luck with what you're doing, and I hope we speak to each other again before we're off of this thing.